My name is Jillian Prendergast. I am chair of the Finance Committee meeting this evening, and I would like to let everyone know that this is a recorded meeting. Looking over the script here. As a preliminary matter, I'd just like to confirm that all the members on the committee are able to hear. If you could respond in the affirmative when I call your name, that would be much appreciated. Khadijah?
Here.
Nathan?
I can hear you.
Linda?
Here.
Kevin?
I am here.
Peter?
Yep, all set.
All right, great. So we do not have any staff tonight. Good evening. This is an open meeting of the Finance Committee. It's being conducted via Zoom. We will be participating remotely. This meeting may allow for the public to provide comment. If we are doing public comments tonight, I please ask that you keep your microphone muted until you're called upon for any public comment. We are not expecting public comment tonight formally. The meeting materials will be provided on board docs, and that is going to be one of the topics tonight because couldn't figure out how to post onto board docs last week. So so that's why there's no formal postings right now on board docs for our meetings tonight. So please accept my apologies. We are figuring out technology. But we got Zoom to work, so that's super great. All right, so I'm not going to read the full script about public comments and etc. because it's not a formal public hearing. So I think that covered all of the major points in the script for a remote public hearing or a remote public meeting. Sorry, not a public hearing. So I think tonight I'll bring up our agenda. So hopefully the agenda was circulated. It has been posted. So we could have our meeting tonight. I saw that on the website. Where's the thing? I'm still getting used to Zoom. I'm a lot more familiar with Teams. Apparently my computer won't let me share. Okay.
And I have a share screen. It's a green arrow at the bottom. Do you see it?
Yeah, it's something with my Mac. Oh, here we go.
Mine says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yes. I think it might not let me actually share my screen until I close Zoom and open it again. Shoot, I should have troubleshooted more. Let's see.
It's sharing now.
Okay, great. Let's make this big. Okay. Is it too small? Is it acceptable?
I think so.
Okay. So to let you all know, I think tonight, our main purpose of meeting tonight, and thanks for everyone for being flexible because we usually meet on the second and fourth Monday of the month. So we kind of moved it around, was the budget transfer question that we had. I have not received those budget transfers or reserve fund transfers. So Greg said that he will be presenting them to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow. And he did not have anything ready for us to discuss tonight. So our next scheduled meeting would be August 14th, technically. So I wanted to sort of take an informal poll to see if people could do August 7th instead. So we could change our meeting to be the following week. I think tonight will be pretty short because I do not have those budget transfers to discuss.
I can do August 7th.
I
One
can do
question
August
would
7th.
be,
Yeah, I can do
one
August
question
7th.
would be, does it make a difference? Do
Yes.
August
So
7th
I
or
asked
August 14th.
Greg a bit. Yeah, and if we would like to, if you want to meet on the 14th instead, Greg is on vacation, so he won't be able to attend the meeting.
Okay.
So the unfortunate thing is that on the 7th, I'm going to be traveling, so I don't know if I'll be able to dial in. So I might need to see if I can get Katie's help. I'm hoping I can, but if I have a technical challenge, I might be only be able to call in and not actually come in on the computer. But it sounds like it might be possible for most people, and I can do my best to make it.
But Jillian, could we wait till the 14th or did you get some sense from Greg if,
The problem is if we wait until the 14th, we can't ask him any questions because he won't come to the call because he'll be away. So I think it would probably be best if we do the 7th, and I'll make it work with a hotspot on my phone or something. So unfortunately, I don't really have any additional information on that topic of the transfers. I was hoping we could get some information and digest it before our meeting, but I will forward that to the committee as soon as possible. Once I forward it, due to open meeting laws, we're not allowed to directly discuss it in email. So please don't do that. So that is topic number 1, which unfortunately does not have much information for us. The other topics tonight were just discussing the planning of the upcoming year and the liaisons to the various committees, and then the routine agenda. So is there any other questions or topics for the budget transfer or reserve fund transfers you wanted to discuss before we move to the next topic?
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind just outlining what that process would look like, since we're not doing it tonight and we reserve time to talk about it anyway.
Yeah. So Peter would know best, but my understanding is that these are going to be budget transfers from the following year. So I think, Kevin, you've been taking in the notes, you've been saying like what's in the fiscal year for our reserve fund. So there's sort of a couple of different ways they do it. We have our reserve fund. The finance committee has, is it what, 200, Peter? 200K or something like that? That's like an emergency.
250,000.
250. So that we sort of, if people have an unexpected expense, like something breaks or there's not money set aside in the budget for something that's unexpected or unanticipated, they can come to our committee and ask for money from that reserve fund. So I think there was potentially some that he was going to bring forward there, but I'm not sure. The budget transfers are sort of taking money from one budget and putting it in another one. It's sort of like book balancing. I don't know if there's a more eloquent way to say that, Peter, but.
No, that's generally it. The general procedure is town meeting approves the budget. And it's only within the last month of the fiscal year that the Mass Department of Revenue provides this alternate structure where the select board and the finance committee if they jointly approve a transfer, and I believe it's limited to 10% of the line item, that then towns can shift money around. So towns generally are not allowed to have negative budget balances when they finish their fiscal year. So if, the town has overspent on fire department salaries, we need to either transfer the money from a different budget line item or do a reserve fund transfer request to cover that deficit. And then, at the end of the year, Greg and the town accountant go through a process trying to figure out, which accounts have excess money and, which accounts have deficits that need to be covered.
Am I
Peter, for
correct?
example, we have a lot of vacant positions in FY23. This is FY23 money. And so if
Yes,
we
this
save
is
money
all
from a vacant
FY23.
position, would that then go into reserve? We would be asked to take, like, say we save money on a salary, we transfer that to reserves. Is that what we'll be asked to do?
No. If there's money available from an open position, that money would then be available to transfer to a different budget line item to cover a deficit, if there were a deficit. Snow and ice, there'll definitely be a deficit that will have to cover some amount of money. If there are surpluses in budgets, from unfilled positions or unspent money that we don't transfer to another budget line, that unspent money then flows into what's unfortunately called free cash. That's the state name for any unspent money from the FY23 budget that then we would be able, once it's certified by the state, we're then able to appropriate it, generally next spring by the time it gets certified. Does that make sense? So the unfilled positions would either be available to transfer to a different line item or would go into free cash.
Just to be clear, I think we're talking about two different things, because I heard reserve fund transfer as I was typing up the notes, and I think you're talking about, Peter, the budget transfers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Two separate.
And in neither case would a surplus go into the reserve fund.
So the reserve fund is there to cover. So there's two ways to cover a shortfall or unexpected expense. One way is a reserve fund transfer, which is a fund that is controlled by this committee. And it's a relatively small amount relative to our town budget. It's still a significant sum, but it's relative to our town budget. It's a little bit small, but it's generally 250,000. And then there's also another way to remediate a shortfall in a particular department's budget by the budget transfer process, where if we have a surplus in one area and a deficit in another, we can even that out via the budget transfer process. Hopefully that makes things clear.
Within one department.
Yeah, so it would be a transfer between essentially line items on the budget. So let's say, we allocated, so if you have two line items in the town budget, generally it's done in the town budget by department, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It could be for a particular, between two projects or between a department, a project. Is just line items in the budget that hey, the town told us to spend money this way. It turns out in the particulars that, we have a surplus in this area and a deficit in this area that we didn't need to, we needed to spend more money to get this line item complete than we anticipated. So that comes at the end of the year where we kind of level it out between the surpluses and the deficits.
And we only have the one time of the year. So if we know we're running surplus or a deficit, we only have the end of the year of money from FY23. The deficits seems like we've already got those obligations from FY23. Yeah. Bills that need to be paid.
Budget transfers can only occur in the last month or two of the fiscal year. Reserve fund transfers can happen anytime during the year. And, you know, generally, if we know there's something that happened, we'd rather address it earlier and don't want Greg to wait until the end of the year to then spring everything on us. So I'd have to look back at the minutes from last year, but we definitely have already done some transfers out of the reserve fund.
So I just have one question for Pete, or Jillian, but I think Pete's probably been around the block a couple more times. So how does the snow and ice transfer happen?
Snow and ice. So just for fun, and I'm sorry if I'm boring people, but snow and ice is the one account that the state will allow you to run a deficit in, provided that you budget at least as much as you budgeted the year before. Maynard and most towns throughout the state always under budget for snow and ice. So we'll spend, you know, 500,000 to 800,000 depending on the snowfall, and generally only budget about 120,000, 150,000. So we know every spring we have a deficit that needs to be addressed. We generally first look to free cash, so the unspent money from the prior fiscal year, which covers the bulk of snow and ice deficit. And then, you know, with the final closing of the books, there'll often be, I don't know, 30 or to 100,000 that, you know, would be covered by either a reserve fund transfer or a budget transfer. That makes sense? Did I say that clearly enough? Okay. So that's snow and ice. And the thing is, once you raise that budget line item, then you're stuck with having to leave it there forever. And that's kind of why we've never raised it.
So my next question is are we expecting reserve fund transfers from Greg? Are we expecting budget transfers from Greg, or are we expecting both?
I'm pretty sure it's both,
Okay.
but I don't have the list in front of me. So this should be presented at the board meeting tomorrow, the select board. So I'm hoping that he'll send it to us as well. But he did not have anything to send to us today.
Discuss the
Yeah,
particular.
if people want to look in advance, I'm not seeing anything on board docs for a meeting tomorrow yet. But that board docs will have select board meetings also, and anything the select board was considering will be posted there. So you can see what's going to come up next week from that.
All right.
So Jillian, I know we mentioned recording before. Are you the one that initially has possession of the recording file and then you forward that on to the WAVM person?
Yes. So I had trouble accessing Zoom. So it
Okay.
seems like I can access it now. So I have CC'd you on the email to the WAVM people as well. So you should be able to access it through that link with the passcode. So then you won't necessarily have to wait for them to post it on YouTube
Okay.
or the channel.
So yeah, okay, so I'm CC'd on the email, so I should be able to access that video file.
Yes.
Because my intent is to use that video to generate an automatic transcription, which I can then compare against my notes and update the minutes accordingly in case there's something I missed in the notes that I'm taking. At least that's the idea.
I mean, you know, the notes have to be, they don't have to be word for word, of course. They don't have to be a grand novel. You
Yep.
know, they have to cover just the important points,
Yep.
and just so anyone can follow along.
Yep. So I take that transcript and I feed it into like a Chat GPT auto summarizer, and that will automatically summarize a transcript for you. It's one of the applications that like Microsoft is, well, and other companies are pushing out there as well, is automatic summarization of documents. So
Yeah.
I'd love to
All
give it
this
a go.
AI stuff is like why I don't want to have the camera on, but I feel obligated.
So I couldn't find the minutes for tonight and I couldn't find the minutes for any other prior meeting. Are they on board docs?
So they're supposed to be on board docs. And the town clerk actually sent me something saying that she's missing our minutes from the past year. So
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what's
Okay.
up with that. So I asked her what the last date was that she had the notes from. So I'm gonna try to figure that out and loop Katie in because Katie was the one that was doing it before. So I think once the notes are finalized and approved and voted, Kevin, you have to actually email them to the clerk. And then I think she posts them on the website and not board docs or something. So
Okay, so look on the, I'll have to check, but I didn't see any from, so that makes me feel better. They were missing.
I
So-
think they're on board docs, but well, I should double check. They're not.
I couldn't find them, but
Yeah, so they're only supposed to be posted, I think, when they are approved and not when they're draft. Or if they're draft, they have to have the big draft water stamp on them. So,
So just before this meeting, I did email you, Jillian, the link to the Google Doc that I have the draft copy of the minutes on.
oh,
But, oh. Hi, Jillian. Sorry, this is probably a topic for a different discussion but, yeah, I mean, board docs doesn't go back far enough. Unless there's some piece of board docs I'm not seeing where this stuff is posted. I didn't realize when the town switched to this new website that they're saying all meeting documents, minutes, and materials are on board docs. Well,
Yep.
I mean, we have 20 years of minutes that were posted on the town website. And, you know, various reports and town meeting reports that. Now there is some FinCom document stuff that shows, but I don't know how they, but went back and posted minutes for 2015 on board docs. So that
yeah. So I
something
think,
we should.
so if you look on board docs, so if you hit this view the agenda button, so you can see the minutes of blah, blah, blah. So the minutes are right here. If you click on this, it
But
opens
that's the
minutes.
draft minutes.
Oh.
That's the draft minutes before they're approved.
I think so. So I think that she's asking for the approved minutes. So this is where I'm aware of where minutes are.
Right.
so Jillian, how did you get
I
to that?
think-
Because I was looking the link in the agenda. So this is a different place. You're going to,
Okay. So this is
If you go to the town website under FinCom, Finance Committee.
Yep.
So under Boards and Committee, Finance Committee, there's a notation there that all minutes are available. Come on.
you.
So
Where's finance committee? I always miss it. Boards and committees. Finance committee. So you go to here, it says all meetings and minutes are on
Yes.
board doc. So you click on this and it says you're leaving our website. You say sure. So you go to the website. For some reason, see in the top right corner, it says select board. You got to pick finance committee. And for some reason, you got to click on it twice. At least
Sometimes you have to click on it twice.
sometimes. And then these
Yep.
are all the past whatever. So if I click on June 12th, this is like a link to it. If you hit view the agenda, this button right here. So this is all the things we talked about. And if there's attached files, there'll be a little like a page icon right here. And if you click on this, you can like click on the
Okay,
actual file
that's
itself.
very helpful. Thank you. I was looking at the link. There's another link in the agenda and it makes it look like the agenda and the minutes are there, but they're not there.
Okay.
Mine looks a bit different when I'm in board docs. Do we need to be logged in to see the agenda?
I
No.
don't think so.
I
Are
thought
you
you had to
sure
be
you've
logged
selected-
in. I thought you had to log in and as
No,
yourself.
there's no login for board docs. Have you selected finance committee in the upper right corner?
For some reason, it will default me to the Board of Selectmen, and I have to click on it again and say, no, I really want to look at the Finance Committee. So I'm like, we didn't meet on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. This,
Yeah, I'm in, it says Finance Committee in the upper right. After I selected it, I see Welcome, Meetings, Policies, and Library. I don't see agenda anywhere.
Select finance committee again do a drop down list and select it again.
Oh, I see. And then I select a specific meeting and then, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Cool, thank you.
so this is why I was having trouble trying to figure out how to post a new posting. It was a little confusing because I haven't really used the website extensively before. So, but we're getting there. So that's my on my to-do list for next time. Let's see. I thought I clicked on. Okay. For some reason, I thought I opened your notes, Gavin, and now I just don't know where they went. All right. Okay. So if we'd like to move on to the subject of the draft notes from the last meeting, I can pull these up and screen share.
Sure.
Maybe. Where's the Zoom? Screen. All right. Can you all see this okay? All right. So I think in terms of formatting, we'll probably have to format them the way that prior meeting notes were formatted. So I think at the top, it sort of has like where it was, like the link to the Zoom and things like that. And also at the bottom, it has the different reserve fund transfers. So I think since we're still talking about doing a reserve fund from 2023, we should maybe include that as well as the new 2024 numbers.
Haven't talk about the trash instead of Peter.
I think Peter asked about it and
Oh,
Kevin.
inquired about, it. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so I think for me, other than the formatting, that would be the only additional comment I think I would have. Do we need to put something in here, Peter, about how Dick opened the meeting? And did you take notes on that part?
I did. Well, actually, he's got the town moderator open the meeting. I mean, Kevin, did you look at the whole tape of it?
So I did not get a chance to view the footage yet. So that's
Sent
why
it
I was
pretty late
asking.
today.
So it might make sense, we should probably, if we can do editing on the fly, I would suggest we, add a piece that, members introduced themselves and discussed goals for the upcoming year.
Yeah. Currently, I don't think I
Yeah,
have
I mean,
permission.
I think that's,
I just updated it, so you should have access.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second because I'm gonna pull up some old meeting minutes that I don't want. I don't want you all to see every single file on my computer. All right. Let's share again. Okay. All right. So, I think we were all at the meeting last time. Would he be a member or an other attendee? I don't remember. And then this was what, July 17th? One, two, three, four, five, six. I'm missing somebody. Nathan?
And Linda instead of Alana.
Oops.
But this said June 26th at the top, Julian.
I
Oh,
just
no,
copy pasted it. Yeah. To get it in the format of the minutes that we've done historically. So usually what we do is we have the date and the time, and then we put a link to whatever the Zoom meeting was that night. And I usually just copy in the agenda too. But I mean, you can skip that part if you want. The agenda is a separate document that should be posted. And then we have to put everyone's last names in here too. So I'm a little bit at a disadvantage here because I have too many things open. And I don't want to spell stuff wrong. Oops. Yeah, when I hover over Zoom to make sure I spell everyone's names right, it doesn't want to. But okay. I don't remember if anyone else was at the meeting. So, but it'll be in the recording.
So do we want to approve the minutes tonight, or should we just defer that till the next meeting? For final approval, so I can view the recording and update it.
Yeah, maybe I might suggest maybe we do this at the next meeting then.
And what's the date of the next meeting?
The next meeting would be August 7th, is
Okay.
what we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, so that gives us so generally the guidelines are is you want to get the minutes out no more than 30 days after the meeting. So we just want to make sure we get the minutes, in a good state by then.
Yep. All right. Yeah, so I think that was great. I don't know if in these old minutes there are, like I said, there's too much stuff open. This is, I can paste in here for you. This is from my understanding. No. Before we haven't done any.
So
Right.
are we sure it's 250,000? I seem to recall there was talk about trying to remember the town meeting that we had. Did we wind up reducing the reserve fund budget allocation for FY24 at town meeting? I know it's typically like 250,000, but I can't remember if I know I was thinking about it prior to that meeting. I don't know if that was what was actually proposed and approved. We'll have to check. We'll have to check the approved budget. Because I think we're just assuming it's 250,000. I know at the very least, like reducing that by some small amount was contemplated at some point prior to town meeting.
Okay, that's a good question. I don't recall it changing. Do you remember if it changed, Peter?
I don't think so. I
No?
remember the discussion. I'm trying to remember what we did change. So the budget Article 6 passed with it at 250. And then we did the amend the public education budget that failed. And then I don't think there was another. Did we amend free cash?
Yeah, it was the free cat. It was a free cash amendment. In fact, the
Free
I-
cash wouldn't have affected the
yeah,
reserve fund.
yeah,
It was Article 6, right?
That's the budget, yeah. Oh, wait, look at free cash for a
Oh.
second. What-
oh yeah, it was the Special Education Stabilization Fund.
Yeah, it was not.
All right, it was the
We
stabilization.
amended this, but it doesn't, if that does, this article doesn't affect the reserve
That
fund.
does.
So yeah, the
Okay.
reserve fund is still 250.
It was the stabilization funds that were impacted. Okay.
Yep, okay. All right, so that's great. So I will. Okay. Okay, so I will put on my notes for the next meeting to approve the minutes of July 17th and July 31st. Transfers, we're gonna approve the minutes, so that's the routine agenda. All right. Okay, so thanks for putting those together. I will close out of this program, I guess. It auto saves, so I will just close that
Yep.
window. Great. So I think the next point of business is update from chair and members. So I will let you know that I did get an email from the Maynard Senior Center Focus Group. So this group has approached us to let us know, and I think we maybe have a few of their members on the call here. So this group is advocating sort of behalf on the Maynard seniors, and also they're working with the Council on Aging Board and other similar groups. And they asked if we could consider a future meeting agenda to include them as someone who would like to come and speak with us.
So Jillian, I seem to recall as well, there was maybe not a representative of the focus group, but there was a representative of, I think, the Council on Aging that wanted to meet with us. This was prior to the opening of the new fiscal year. Maybe someone's recollection is better than mine, but I believe maybe this is the focus group that we talked to before. I'm not entirely sure, but I do remember that there was someone. I think it was Deb, actually. I think is it okay if I ask Deb? Can you confirm that was you that spoke to us before?
Yes, it was Peg Brown and myself from the
Okay.
Senior Center Focus Group.
Okay. Okay, so it was from the focus group. So this is a continuation of the discussion we had in the prior fiscal year.
Correct.
All right. Great. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
You're welcome.
Yep. So, and that nicely leads us into our next topic, sort of talking about liaisons to various committees and other groups that are active in the town. Thanks very much for reaching out to us. We are in the process. We're sort of a lot of newer members, new fresh faces, new ideas. We'll breathe life into the committee here. It also is a little bit of an onboarding process too. So I think it'll be really great to work together going forward in the future. And one of the first things that I think would help with that is talking about liaisons to the different committees. So I have a couple of documents here that I can pull up. So these are, so on the right side in this Word file, I think you can probably see both, is the people that were on the various liaison committees last year. And on the left is a document that I tried to start putting together about when these different committees start meeting and who might want to volunteer for some of these committees going forward. So Ken and Alana have obviously left their posts. So these in particular, Danielle Eriks, I'm not sure who that is. Peter, this Danielle wasn't on FinCom, was she?
She was on for a little while, and something came up and she had to resign. I forget what, but.
Okay. Yeah, so going forward, there's, I think, a bunch of these committees might have completed, like the charter review, I think, is done.
Yes.
The master plan is done, as far as I remember. The implementation committee.
Really?
Right?
I don't, probably
I
not. I think that
Okay.
would be an ongoing, that's not to come up with the master plan, that's to somehow use the master plan.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I thought Ken was on the committee that was updating the master plan a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah, I think this is more about implementing it, which I'm not sure what they're doing.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and you know, if people are particularly interested, feel free to disagree. And I don't mean to diss any individual committee, but I would put master plan implementation committee and bylaw committee on a slightly lower tier than the other stuff that's listed here. And I think that's just the list of stuff that we decided to do last year. You know, I'm sure there's 1,000 other committees that we don't have
Yeah.
formal liaisons for.
Right.
And I'm not sure we need, I'm not saying we do, but if someone had a particular interest, it may be that we want to do something with another committee. Or somebody thought there was a big issue in town.
Well, I'm on the 6163 Summer Street Reuse Committee, and I forgot to email you about that. So that's like the Green Meadow building. It's sort of like something that will come and go, probably, hopefully be dissolved by February, March. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't think of this. I don't know if Dick Downey mentioned it. You should be a non-voting member of that committee.
Yes, yes, he did
Okay.
mention that, and
Okay.
I am a co-chair on that committee and didn't realize it. I mean, I knew I was supposed to be non-voting, but I'm helping out the other chair. So,
I
but
think
yeah,
that's fine. It's just the voting.
Yeah. it's just
Yeah.
the
By
vote.
town charter, finance committee can't be voting members except for
yes.
charter review committee.
Yeah, the committee's reporting to the select board tomorrow, and I told them I should not be representing the committee to the select board, so.
I'm just gonna turn my video off. I got a big message saying that my internet's not stable, so maybe that'll help. Yeah, I can't. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, so I have everyone minimized right now, so if there's any questions or just pop in, because I can't actually see it or anything. Okay, so thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so I mean, I think we wrote down what the key committees were, so, you know, Katie was on the Green Meadow one. So budget subcommittee meeting was me and Peter, so I don't know if other people are interested in that committee.
I'll say I don't have any particular interest, but if you have something,
think
Tuesdays and Thursdays are good for me. Wednesdays are bad. So I don't think I could do if budget is Wednesday, if that would be a conflict, but whatever you think, wherever you need me, I can do any Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, usually they'll take a poll of the various members that attend to see what works for them. I think most.
I would just note Thursdays are school committee generally.
Yeah.
I don't know if any, I mean, Ken had a particular interest in the school committee and he used to serve on the school committee. I don't know if that's of interest to you, Linda, or if other members of the committee are saying, oh no, I want to be school committee representative. And again, I don't think you have to attend every meeting because school committee has a lot of meetings. but just throwing that out there.
So I do have an update. The CPC is the first and third Wednesday of each month. And the trash task force is Tuesday at 5 p.m. And let me just double check. Yeah. Here, let me get the agenda. Okay. So May 2nd. So it's once a month, and let me just see what May 2nd. So it's the first Tuesday of every month.
Sorry, I got disconnected. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing with the trash task force. I am definitely interested in that because I definitely think there are efficiencies to be had based on what DPW has presented to both the select board and this committee. There was a presentation that I shared, I believe in the winter time, that showed significant cost savings to the general fund. And given the financial pressure we are under, I think if there's financial savings to be had, we should be going after that. So I'm definitely interested in that. The challenge I have is that the time is Tuesday at 5 p.m. and I'm working right when I start, and I've tried making those meetings. By the time I get to the meeting, it's from work, it's about wrapping up. So the time, I'm definitely interested in it, but the time does not work for me. If other people are interested and can make the time, I certainly think that would probably be a better fit. But I am, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. are pretty brutal for me to be able to make.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So it sounds like I'll take your name off of the task force for now because the time was not fitting your schedule. You were on the CPC liaison, I think.
Yes.
Would you
Yeah.
still? You're on a couple here. So,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like the CPC is fine. I could keep that. The one, if we need like a major effort that's like high profile and a lot of work, the Green Meadow building would be a near ideal fit for my schedule. That's probably of the ones, because like the best days for me are Monday and Friday. So I would probably prefer the Green Meadow Building Committee. Slightly interested in that. I'm interested in still maintaining liaison with DPW, so I can kind of keep track of the task force that way, but not necessarily. Maybe we could even consider like just eliminating the trash task force liaison if no one really wants to take it, and I could just interact through Justin. Because I think most of the details are going to be forthcoming through DPW anyways, because it's DPW that does the contract, that ultimately do the contract.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Is anyone else interested by any of these other opportunities here on the committee?
So this isn't on the list, but I would be interested in being a liaison to the historical commission.
All right.
And I believe they
As a
meet.
new member, I would like one of the easier ones, so maybe one at the bottom of the sheet. For my first one. I can't do Wednesday, but so I could do bylaw or planning. Those are Tuesday, Thursday. Am I missing?
Yeah.
See,
To let you know, I think the bylaw committee won't technically have any articles from my understanding at the next meeting, so that might not be a bad one to liaison with.
that sounds easy.
And I could put the CPC up for grabs. I'm not terribly wedded to that, although I do think there is a discussion to be had. If the seniors are going to be moving, if the seniors are going to be moving out, and that's a big if they're going to be moving out of the golf clubhouse, I think there should be a discussion, and there's a whole complex issue with the golf course. Like, it's kind of a sore topic, but I really think there should be a discussion of, like, what is the most efficient use of the clubhouse and ultimately the golf course as well. And it's kind of a sore topic because the state has questions about the approval of this golf course. It's kind of a borderline case in terms of its adherence to the Community Preservation Act. But this is like over a decade old, so it's kind of water under the bridge. But to give you some context of what's going on, there's also the discussion of the bleachers, although I think all of that has been resolved. To give you some past history, like we as a committee, certain members of this committee thought the CPC should have done things a little bit differently. The CPC disagreed, so there's a little bit of friction there. But if no one else is terribly interested in it, I'll just keep it on. But I would, I'm not so attached to it that I'm 100% have to be liaison to that. But certainly willing to serve and continue in that capacity if no one else wants it. But I think that just a heads up, I do think this discussion regarding the seniors is going to intersect with the CPC, because that clubhouse that we're kind of doubling as a senior center is not technically attached, but a critical function of the golf course, which was funded by CPC funds.
Okay, so I'll put the senior center focus group potentially as another group we would like to have a liaison for.
Yeah, I should say that that senior center focus group, that probably should be the same person that's intersecting with the CPC. Just because, again, that issue, I mean, that's just my personal thought. But I think the two issues are going to intersect.
Make a comment here.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interject, but I don't find my little hand waving icon here, but the senior center focus group is not a town sanctioned board. It's a group of concerned residents, citizens who are working on this. So I think you might want to edit that to put the Council on Aging instead of the senior center focus group, because they have the last word when it comes to senior issues.
So
I see they meet
They meet the third Tuesday of the month at, I have it right here, of 3 p.m.
All right. Just a quick question for clarification. So there was a line item that was added to the free cash amendment to I think to put together a focus group to do this. So you're not part of that free cash amendment that we discussed at the last town meeting.
Well, the free cash amendment, the $35,000 went to the Council on Aging for either use at the senior center or for a senior center focus group. I'm sorry, a study
Okay.
by the UMass. So the Council on Aging is the receiving recipient of that money.
All right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
I could do a
Alright.
3 PM meeting if you want, Jillian.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I could not, so,
yeah, I can, my work meetings are 1 to 2, so I could do a 3 on much, yeah. A second Thursday and a third, that's 2 meetings a month. That works for me as a beginner.
thank you. All right, I put my name up here for the select board liaison, because I think that's typical of the chair. Unless someone wants to fight me for it. So I'll put my name there. I think some of the other key committees are going to be the budget subcommittee and the school committee. So the budget subcommittee meeting is sort of like a mini tri-board meeting. So it has representatives from each of the different various key stakeholders, and it's not a voting committee. But they do discuss items that might come up, and they help, also with the tri-boards and other things.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stay with budget subcommittee. Doesn't seem to be a bunch of other people leaping for it, so I'm fine to do that. Yeah, I mean, if nobody else wants to do school committee, I guess I can do it. I won't. Sorry, Natasha, I'm not going to be as active as Ken was, which may be a relief, frankly. But anyway,
I-
Sorry. It's always recorded, Peter. Don't worry.
right. But again, I mean, if someone has, a burning desire, I'm perfectly willing to trade or something. But otherwise, I'm fine doing those two.
All right. Thank you for that.
Jillian, I just wanted to add, since we're on it, I'm
Yep.
going to continue on to be the liaison to the finance committee. So Peter,
Okay.
if there's, just for continuity purposes, if there's any feedback or something that, you want me to speak on, that whatever, I'm happy to relay that if you're not able to attend a
Okay.
meeting.
Does that mean we're like in-laws or something? But-
In some weird Maynard way,
Okay.
possibly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I think on the budget subcommittee, that's probably one of the more complex ones.
Yep.
I think we should probably have the second person should also be someone experienced. If no one else wants it, I'll take it, but I think we should have 2 experienced people on the budget subcommittee, so we're not slamming our new members with all the minutiae of the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I can also, I was there with Peter before, so, if you're full up with all the other ones you've already volunteered for, I don't
Yeah.
mind going there
Okay.
again. So,
I think it's also appropriate that the chair also, like select board, budget subcommittee are like, I think that was also like Alana's role as well. When she was chair, she was budget subcommittee and select board liaison. Oh,
no, I was,
No, she actually had specifically bowed out of budget subcommittee because of the timing stuff. I
Okay.
also would just note Katie isn't
yeah,
here.
maybe
And
Katie,
before we finalize everything, I would want to
Yep.
give her a chance to express interest.
I will.
But I think we have a pretty good draft list.
Yep.
Can we leave it at that and
Sounds good.
pick it up? You know, particularly when Katie's back and can express whatever interest she wants.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So I can put on finalize liaison. Okay. Great. I will save this. And we can go on to the next topic.
So just a question as in my role as secretary, did we finalize the liaison, or are we still working on it?
We did not finalize it. We had
alright.
a very robust discussion, but we wanted to make sure that our lovely Vice Chair Katie also had
Okay.
some input.
Understood. All right.
Great. All right. So, and it also looks like future agenda planning. So how do I go back to where I was? All right. So I think for my understanding for the next meeting, this is the agenda over here on the right. We can talk about transfers as the main topic. This will be on August 7th. Is the next meeting at 7 p.m. So we can talk about transfers as the main topic, maybe finalize liaisons, hopefully at the next meeting. We'll also have our routine agenda. So that would be updates and future agenda planning. We also have the opportunity to think about what committees or other groups we would like to invite for upcoming meetings. So I think I forwarded one article to you all, so we could also potentially talk about that draft article. So I could invite Justin from the DPW if you would like, because that was an acceptance of certain roads in the town. And this is a proposal by the town, so it's not a citizen's proposal to accept non-public roads. So I can.
Yeah.
It might, I mean, whatever people think, but it might make sense to hold off on Justin, just because there may be other town meeting articles that come up closer to town meeting.
Yeah.
And rather than, you know, then he could do them all at one meeting. I mean, probably not for the 7th, but if we're doing a second meeting in August, would it make sense to talk about the senior center a little bit more and put that on the agenda?
Yep. So I think so. If we follow our typical schedule, August 28th.
We could talk about it a little bit next time maybe, but I also think we need to figure out a little bit of a strategy and a plan, you know, both on special town meeting for the fall, but more specifically on the Green Meadow School.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not even sure. I assume it will be the select board that is the sponsoring, you know, authority for any article that goes to town meeting, and it would be the select board with the town administrator that are deciding on the final form of the funding. But we're getting pretty close, and you know, there's still a lot of things I think, well, anyway, at some point, they're gonna need to nail down some cost numbers that we're then gonna put to voters. And, you know, we're gonna be looking to get that final number and cost to average taxpayer. And then, you know, I'm not sure if the plan is still to wrap the bleachers into that article. But that all will start to become very serious very quickly. So, maybe we can ask Greg about it next week. Just what he thinks you know, when will they have, okay, this is the final number we're gonna ask for. Kind of thing. What's, you know, this is the final bonding authority, I guess, will be the number they need. So maybe we could throw that on the agenda for next week, just if we have Greg, to ask him for an update on that. Because I think it's moving beyond Green Meadow School Building Committee. They're more charged with designing the school and not particularly with deciding on the funding. And it, you know, nor is school committee, it would be select board, I'm pretty sure. So we need to figure out when they're going to know a final number that we can then consider.
All right. All right, that sounds great. So for the next meeting on August 7th, I'll invite Greg. I'll make the transfers the main topic. I'll put as a secondary topic planning for the, oh, I can share my screen if that's easier. People will look at what I'm saying. So I'll make transfers the main topic, planning for, I'm pretty sure it's October special town meeting, and article discussions. Hopefully finalize the liaisons, and then sort of routine agenda, approving the minutes of the 17th and the 31st. Any updates in future planning. And then it sounds like on the 28th, maybe we can expand on this, the senior center discussion, perhaps invite them if that could fit their schedules, and maybe invite Justin to talk about town articles, depending on what drafts we have on hand. So we can decide that all at the August 7th meeting.
Let me also point, like, a long-term goal that I think I want to hit for this committee is to look at the financials regarding our trash situation, preferably hit those goals and look at this before the new contract with E.L. Harvey or another solid waste provider is negotiated early next year. I think we should look into that now. Maybe the question I put to this committee is, what is the most opportune time to discuss the solid waste disposal? Would it be now in the summer, or should we wait for after special town meeting to discuss it? When do we feel like the most opportune time would be?
I mean, I think it depends on what the timelines are. So you said the contract is up in January?
So like generally, yeah, the town like starts negotiating a contract with E.L. Harvey in the starting late in winter time this year and going into the spring of the.
I also want to be careful because they have that trash committee appointed to sort of look into this issue, and I don't want to do something that's redundant potentially with what they're doing. Isn't the trash force doing something like this?
We're an independent body, so the trash task force is a body of the select board. We are tasked with doing an independent financial review of the town, and I believe town meeting voters need to hear that we could potentially save money or not, depending upon how we go, that we could potentially save money by upgrading our trash program to an automated cart thing. I think town meeting, when we go to like budget review and the select board is asking money for this new contract, we as a finance committee need to be able to comment on this, whether we think that contract is in the best interest of town meeting voters. So in preparation for that, I would like to have a conversation with DPW as a committee to review what our options are for solid waste disposal going into next year before the decision is heavily solidified, and to make everyone aware of kind of what our committee's feeling is about the financials of the solid waste. And I think
So-
also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Pete.
No, go ahead if you go. So my cut on this would be, I think this could be the topic of several meetings, conversations, that it doesn't have to be, you know, a 1 4-hour session and that's it. It might make more sense as something that is 20 minutes over the course of several meetings. I guess for me, the issue is, you know, what are we trying to accomplish? So if we are trying to gather information so that we can come up with what the financial picture is, that's one thing. I had some idea that, you know, to mimic what Jillian said, you know, we could probably take some of that from the trash committee and not make Justin go through it, or
Right.
someone could kind of do it individually with Justin and then present it to, you know, our committee. I would think it would make sense for us to discuss it after there's something that we're actually looking at that says, okay, you know, it costs us, you know, rough guess, $400,000 to the operating budget, the way the trash contract is structured now. Here are these 3 alternatives, and this is what they would cost. You know, to start with that as a starting point for our discussion, rather than do it as invite Justin in and just kind of, you know, Lord knows I would want something from writing from him. I don't want him to just come in and talk. That'll shoot half the meeting.
All right. So yeah, so I think that would probably be the way to go. I think I could interact with Justin, collect, get the data that I want collected, and then me myself present the data to the committee, and of course present the documents ahead of time for the committee to review. The things I'm interested are, of course, like there's that presentation that happened in FY 22 that I sent to this committee, where there was options to even eliminate all general fund support of our solid waste disposal. I'd like to elaborate that on a little bit by also looking at the contract that Justin received for the automated cart solution that would eliminate the general fund support, and go look into a little bit of the details of what was offered, and is that actually is that actually an offer that's in the best interest of town meeting voters?
All right, so I'll put a note here that we'll revisit this later in the year after you've sort of gone over with Justin to get the data that you'd like, and you'd let us know when you'd like to make it a topic on a future meeting.
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah, I just want to know, like, what's the feeling on like the most opportune time, especially for people who have gone through this cycle before. Do we want to do this during the summer? Do we want to do it after a special town meeting? Like, what timeline do you think works best for everyone?
I think the closer you get to October, the harder it'll be to put this as a topic.
All right.
Unless it's an article.
All right, so I can start the conversation with
that's-
Justin right away.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
But I don't know if they're going to start thinking
But that-
about contracts closer.
Yeah, I mean, my preference would be that it would be more of an ongoing conversation rather than a point in time, because I think there will be, you know, if you come with something, then people will have questions, and then we figure out who can do a little bit of follow-up, and then some, you know, back and forth maybe with the trash committee that, it's a process of a couple of meetings rather than one single thing. I think is the best way to think about it from my point of view. Jillian, I don't know if you can see Natasha with her hand up there.
Okay,
I don't know
thanks.
if
I'm
that-
having technical difficulties, so I appreciate that.
Hi, I just wanted to add that maybe bringing up the trash at a budget subcommittee, a town might be like a priority just to hear more about. So if it's something that FinCom wants to hear more about, that might be a platform that could bring it up to see what Greg and timing wise, because there's the select board representation from other folks as well. And to help just as another litmus test on what I think what I appreciate, Kevin, is we don't want to get into a situation where the contract is ready to be signed and there's no action able to be discussion happen. So maybe that might be a good place as a litmus test to put it forth in a trial, like one of those meetings. I don't know, just a thought.
So, if I may, Jillian, I just want to echo some of my other comments about budget subcommittee. And I
Yep.
don't want that to be a substitute for discussion at FinCom and Greg or Justin coming and talking to FinCom. Budget subcommittee, Greg often goes through a litany of things and then thinks he doesn't have to present. He always then goes and presents to select board, but he
Right.
doesn't come and present separately to FinCom. And I'm concerned about that. So that's my only
I
reaction to
agree.
that,
I
Natasha.
wouldn't, I think that's absolutely right. Because I think that you all definitely, I would want to see FinCom weigh in on that as a board. I was more thinking of as an opportunity to express it as a priority for FinCom versus hearing the information fresh there, because I'm guessing at some point we're going to be talking about priorities for FY, 25. And so I
Yes,
was
we are.
just thinking that might be a good place to bring that up as a priority for FinCom to have, and just as you said, to advocate that it should be brought to, like, you'd want to hear more about it earlier on and that sort. But I do agree, it needs to be brought for FinCom. I wasn't thinking that only at budget, just to advocate another moment there.
So just to give some context as to why I think this is a priority, based on Justin's presentations to select board and to FinCom, there's potential of upwards of $450,000 in savings to be had by using a more efficient trash collection system than what we have in place already. So that's why I think it's a priority, because of the potential savings to be had there. That really will not result in a cut in services nor an increase in taxes.
All right, thank you for that clarification. So yeah, so I agree with Peter. I think this is something we can talk about going along. We don't have to make it one giant chunk item. I think having an in-depth conversation could be good once you get all the data together. But I think it's important to keep it as sort of an ongoing discussion, to keep it not only at the forefront of people's minds, but also to keep people engaged during, the whole process. You don't want to try to concentrate it all at the end, right before they're doing contract negotiations. Maybe what did my business partner say? It's always important to build relationships, and you do that through micro transactions. So, micro meetings, so to speak.
So you could expect every meeting to have an update from me on this issue. I think this is,
and
for
that'll
me,
definitely fit in updates from the chair and members. So we could talk about it there.
Yeah. So it'll be a regular ongoing thing for me. I think this is, given the monetary value involved, this would probably be my top item for this year.
Okay, great. And sort of speaking of our next meetings. I did notice that Linda and Nathan, you've gotten a Town of Maynard email address. Is that correct? Is that the right email address now that I should be using?
I think,
Yes, thank you.
I think that was recommended, so I'd prefer that, yeah. If that's
Okay, great.
possible. Yeah,
So
keep all
I'll
that
update the
separate.
mailing list.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
And I'll be getting one shortly as well, Jillian. So you can expect a change in my email address by the next meeting.
Okay, if you could just send me an email from that, whatever your
Yep.
address will be, I'll
Yep.
update that as well.
I will too.
Okay, great. Yep. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, so I think that is our planning for next time. So that sounds good. I can send out that that notice after this meeting. Yes, I mean, I think we've covered all of our topics for tonight. Unless committee, I have missed any burning topics.
I was going to suggest that if we, one of the listed topics is member updates. Without making it too long, and just to kind of throw out there, I think it would also be appropriate if, newer members are, looking at things or had some issue they wanted to ask a question about. Maybe we could do just some brief items, or, I don't want to make it real long. Plus, everybody wants to end the meeting at this point in the night anyway. But, if there are things that have come up as people have been reviewing various materials that, they just want to ask a quick question, maybe we could address some of that, if that's okay with you, Jillian. That makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Broadly speaking, I think it kind of fits under member updates. And we, if there's nothing tonight, that's fine, but just, going forward, if there are things that people want to ask, that might make sense.
Yeah, and I can give you a brief. So I don't know if you've seen, so this is back on board docs again. If you look in the top right corner here under library, oh, my computer might die. But this is some historical documents that might be helpful for some of our newer members. So looking at reports that we've done in the past, and some older reports, and this onboarding document is also useful for new members to understand, the role and how FinCom works generally. So this is under, so instead of being in the meeting tab to see all our meetings, this is under the library tab. So if that's helpful. There's also for other boards, there's also some documents too. But there's also policies, which they talk about. If you want to read the charter and the bylaw, it talks about what our committee does and is charged to do. So that's in the town charter right here in the PDF. And if you ever had questions about open meeting law, they have stuff on here as well. You can also email the clerk, or I can help direct you to the right place. So that's helpful. It's a learning process, so it takes a while to onboard. For like the first couple of months, I was just like, a lot. So there's no dumb questions. So please always feel free to ask. We appreciate you coming to volunteer on the board to make the town a better place. All right. Yeah, so I think that's all I had tonight.
Would you like a motion?
Yeah, I move to adjourn.
All right. So Kevin moves to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I second the emotion. The emotion.
All right. So Linda seconds. All right. So we'll do a roll call vote. So Linda,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Khadijah.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. So that is all the members of the committee for tonight. So we have officially adjourned. So thanks everyone for your time. I'll send out that draft agenda to be posted so we can meet next week.